Good morning. This is Richard Cheng with the Sativa segment, episode 41. I would like to say that this episode is fueled by Cheng M&A. It is a local business brokerage firm that is based in Dallas, Texas, heavily focused on healthcare and alternative substances companies. If you want to learn a little bit more about Cheng M&A, feel free to go to linkedin.com. Okay, let's get started. Patrick, thank you so much for coming all the way in from Charlotte, North Carolina. That's home for you.
That's home for me. Thank you for having me, Rich.
Hey, listen, I will have anybody on the show that's allegedly watched, 30 episodes of mine? So
30, I'm 30 in. Yes, I am.
Thank you for the support. As we talked earlier, this show was really kind of a passion project of mine to really pump out content on there to educate the industry and also to pull out some creative juices out of me. So I know that you're interested in maybe starting a podcast yourself.
I am. I have some creative juices of my own that I'd like to get out.
Hey, your product speaks for itself. Speaking of which, let's make a really quick transition from podcasting to why we're really here.
Right.
Like to get to know you a little bit more, and obviously feel free to talk about yourself into the camera. But
Sure.
Before we dig into that,
Mm-hmm.
this, my friend, is what I'm taking home with me today.
I think you'll enjoy it.
And this is what I'm going to be drinking tonight.
All right.
Okay, so before we talk about Kush, which is an excellent drink from what I understand, and is based off of a lemonade formula that's kind of like a secret lemonade formula developed by your great-grandfather, Luther Dryers.
That is correct. That's correct.
And it was kind of, it's been a family legacy. It's been passed down to you.
Correct.
And we'll, again, talk more about that. But let's talk about you a little bit. We had a conversation earlier. You grew up in the rough parts of St. Louis.
I grew up in the rough parts of St. Louis.
And
yeah.
there are some, let's be honest, there are some rough parts in St. Louis.
There are a lot of rough parts, yes.
So, let's not
In fact, the whole city's rough.
Okay, well.
In a good way. But, yeah, I grew up in St. Louis. Proud to be from St. Louis. It's home for me. Still home for me. But I'm glad to have grown enough to learn the lessons of St. Louis to be able to apply those in other places.
Okay.
Yes.
Like, give me one lesson that you learned growing up in St. Louis that you still implement today.
When you go to the gas station, look around before you get out of the car.
That's a good lesson.
So pay attention to your surroundings.
So having self-awareness.
Having self-awareness, yes.
Self-awareness around your space and where you are and who's around you.
I think it's important. I mean, a lot of times you can be in new places and you relax. There's nothing wrong with that. But growing up in St. Louis, it gave me a crash course in being aware of my surroundings. Anything could happen at any time, which, that applies to being in business settings, to being in the airport. It doesn't matter. But yeah, one of the great lessons I've learned from that.
Okay. But now you don't live in St. Louis anymore. You live in North Carolina. And that is really where your company, Luther Dryers, is based.
That's correct.
But you also told me you are considering Texas.
I love Texas. Everything's bigger and better in Texas,
Hey.
And so as we grow, we're eyeing Texas. My family's here, my support system's here. We have good traction in many of the retail outlets here, and we have interest from some of the larger retailers here.
Now, your distribution company that you use is based out of Texas, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Hey, listen, we can always use more minority-owned businesses here in Texas.
I would agree.
So definitely consider moving into Texas. But let's talk a little bit about how you started your company in your journey. I like to really kind of dig into your journey. You grew up in the rough parts of St. Louis. You had told me that shortly before your grandmother passed, she had this secret recipe to your great-grandfather's lemonade.
Correct.
And you guys had these big family reunions. People would bring jugs to get this special lemonade, which your grandmother did an excellent job of making.
Right.
But she knew, she wasn't going to be on planet Earth forever.
Correct.
So she thought maybe you would do something with it. So once you got the recipe, which from what you told me, it took a while to get.
Yeah.
What were your first thoughts?
My first thoughts were going back to my dorm room and figuring out how to sanitize my bathtub to make it in the tub.
Okay.
So I started actually making it in my dorm room in the tub.
And you played college ball, right?
Yeah, I played ball. University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was in a basketball dorm room. So I had to figure out how to put plastic bags in my tub to make a large amount. And, I wasn't a math whiz, so I had to figure out, the sugar, where to get the fruit, etc. So I started making it in my bathtub, and I started selling it around campus. For instance, sororities and fraternities, whatever their colors were. If it was AKAs, I would make pink lemonade. If it was Omegas, I would make purple or grape lemonade.
Okay.
And I would sell it at functions around campus. And from there, that grew. Funny story. After I lost my basketball scholarship, I had lost my privilege to go to the library and these type of things. So I was trying to learn as an entrepreneur of how to make this lemonade and learn about marketing and sales and operation and manufacturing. So I used to sneak into the library. And one interesting, funny how God puts angels in your life. One interesting evening while I was sneaking into the library to study manufacturing and marketing, etc., the security guard caught me. He was like, "Hey, you're that guy that's been selling this lemonade around campus." And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I've had that's pretty good." And so I told him what I was doing. And it shows you about different people coming across your life at certain times. He said that, "You know what? I want to help you succeed." And he said, "I work 10 to 6, 4 to 5 days a week. Whenever I'm in here, you can come in here, but you have to leave before 6 o'clock." So for about 6 months, that's how I got my initial education, sneaking in the library, learning how to write a business plan, learning how to write a marketing plan, learning nutritional panels and all of the kind of stuff, of having that time to really soak it in. And that got me started from my dorm room bathtub to eventually learning how to get a co-packer to manufacture my product, which was another unique story as well.
So I'm curious, as you're walking through this journey of making the product, the product speaks for itself, but you also have to understand that the product is just a product. A business is a business.
Right.
Were you well versed on understanding how to grow a business and how to be profitable, why it's important to be profitable?
Not at all. I was the essential dumb jock.
Okay.
Yeah, my focus was only on basketball. And, sad to say that many athletes think that they're going to make it to a higher position in sport. So I thought I was going to make it to the NBA. My whole point was just focused on that. I hadn't really developed any other skills, even though I possessed other skills. I never took time to really look at those other skills. So communication, discipline, understanding margins and cost and these type of things. Well, same way of calculating if you're playing ball. You play against a guy long enough, he's left-handed, he's right-handed, you understand his tendencies.
Yeah.
So I figured out that some of the same things I used to be able to play basketball well would transition to me learning things in business. And having the chance to really step into that library and take time to set a foundation, that created a fire in me to want to learn more. And from there, I began to read all the books, the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And as I fueled that fire, I started recognizing, there's a pattern to business, or there's a science to business. It's like there's a science to mating or anything else. And so I started really getting into more of developing those skills that had been lying dormant, because I never knew, they were there, and yet they existed all the time while I was playing ball.
Now, would you say that some of those lessons that you grew to learn, or that, as you say, fuel that fire, was that part of your childhood at all? Or do you think your parents ever taught you any of those skills at all? Or
I grew up in a single parent household. So growing up in the inner city, you don't see a lot of entrepreneurs in the true sense of the word.
Right.
There's a lot of entrepreneurs that are doing things that are not necessarily the most legal. And if you do see entrepreneurs, it's probably someone that has a car repair place or a corner store, these type of things. No one was around of having the audacity to dream of starting a beverage company. Well, when you walk into the corner store every day, you see vests and 7-Up, and you see these drinks,
Yeah.
but you never think about how they got there. The interesting thing, though, I have to give my mother credit that even though we were in a single household and in the projects, one of the routines every day, every evening at dinner was that she would have flashcards, and she would always tell us, because you live in the projects, you don't have to have a project mind. And so every evening we would have these flashcards, and they would change, but they would be about history. They would be about sociology. That's how I learned about Freud and B.F. Skinner and et cetera, all from the kitchen table. So those lessons fueled that, not letting my environment dictate who I was.
Which can be very impactful, as you know,
Right.
because there's a, what is it, the old saying that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
That's correct.
And if your environment is challenging, it's hard to get out of that. So, not to mention, in those challenging environments, when people see you succeed, sometimes they want to pull you back in.
With a lot more effort, yes. Yes, I mean, but I think that anyone that understands that, if you can have that drive in sports,
Yeah.
then that same drive can overcome the obstacles that you're facing as an entrepreneur.
Okay. So direct correlation between athletics and business success with this. So let's shift to talk about your actual company. You started it just about maybe 2.5, 3 years ago.
Yes.
Okay. How did you get off the ground? Tell me a little bit about that.
Utilizing self-funding, family and friends, the age-old way any small company gets off the ground, and then understanding that I would have to be able to go on the route of taking our products to the people,
Okay.
as opposed to letting someone else decide that doesn't know me, doesn't know my product, has all kinds of incentives from other companies to put their products in these places. So basically, what's called hitting the streets, and showing that your product will work, or proving your concept in essence. And then from there, made it out of a small commercial kitchen to start off with, to keep costs down. And then as volume grew, then we had a manufacturing co-packer partner. Initially, funny story, we couldn't find a co-packer, so we were manufacturing in Canada. And I would we were manufacturing, I want to say hello to Scott in Canada, yes. We were manufacturing in Canada, Collingwood, Canada.
Okay.
And I would have to go through Buffalo and go to Canada maybe once a month, in order to get our product made and then bring it back across the border, warehouse it, and then start selling it. And after a while, when the pandemic hit, I just couldn't sustain, the travel back and forth to Canada, as well as I had to find a better way to get the product made in the U.S.
What was the challenge of getting it made here in the U.S. where it forced you to go to Canada?
Volumes.
Okay.
Small company, line time, all these things you learn about as you get more seasoned.
So people were, when you say it's a small company, just certain companies were unwilling to work with you?
Correct.
Okay, because you weren't pumping out enough volume.
Correct.
And so you had to go to Canada to find, I guess, a company who's willing to work with a small company. Okay.
And I thank them today. We still have a great relationship. But as I mentioned before about, God bringing angels in your life, and I think a lot of people don't realize is that, first of all, you have to take the step to your journey. The journey's not going to come to you, so you have to take the step, and you'll find that things will happen in your favor. Not all, and even the obstacles, are lessons, or they should be. It's the way I look at things.
So you finally found somewhere domestic. You brought it back to the U.S. It's currently being manufactured in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Right outside Charlotte, in Monroe, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the names of your lines, the branding. You have a hard lemonade, which has, well, there's 3. There's one that's made with gin.
Yes.
There's one that's made with vodka.
Yes.
And there's one that's made with whiskey.
That's correct.
Okay. And then, so that's the hard lemonade. That's the Luther's
and to be even more precise, it's a peach cobbler whiskey.
Okay.
Yes. And there's a lot of whiskeys in this world. and people love whiskey, but I believe we've made the first peach cobbler whiskey.
I gotta share this story with you because you said peach cobbler. True story. I was in Taipei, Taiwan this past December.
Taipei, Taiwan.
That's right. I took my two kids. I have a 16 and a 13-year-old. And in Taipei, they actually sell alcohol, various types. And my 13-year-old buys this peach cobbler, peach type tea. So when, I know it's not lemonade, but it's peach tea.
Right.
And I do believe in the formula, they actually did say something about having lemon juice in there.
Right.
Okay. So she buys this. True story. We go back to the hotel. I can't believe I'm saying this online because her mother's probably watching, but oh well, so be it. She takes a swig. She says, "Oh, Dad, this is disgusting." I'm like, "Oh, give me that. What is it?" And I say, "It's just peach tea." Well, I turn it around. It says 9.9% alcohol. It's hard alcohol.
It's hard
with
tea.
Peach cobbler. It's peach. I don't know if can't recall if it says cobbler, but it definitely said peach and it said tea. It had and it said something about having lemon juice. Well, to her it was just peach lemon tea, but it was more like the Asian version of Luther Dryers.
I would agree, and it's funny, right? So that us looking at the convenience of people wanting a ready-made cocktail, right? But a ready-made cocktail that has some substance, like a craft cocktail. That word used to be thrown around, or like craft beers. Yeah. It's not mainstream. It's made with a little more care, higher quality ingredients. You can actually taste the product. And so, so we have the liquor brand. It's gin lemonade, which is the original lemonade, mango vodka, it's more tropical. Okay. And then we have the peach cobbler whiskey, which is made with a rye whiskey and pie spices. And then we take that same lemonade and then we do our THC CBD version of Kush lemonade. Yep. The name is important because when you say Xerox, you think about copying. Yep. When you say Clorox, you think about bleach. Yep. So when you say Kush, automatically people understand what you're talking about if you've lived anywhere on this planet for the past 100 years. So for us, it was real important to get a name that people could instantly recognize in the sea of all the other THC products out there. Yep. And the one thing that differs with us that I found in the market, there's nothing synthetic about our ingredients. There's no quote unquote natural flavor.
Are there other lemonade-based THC drinks? Do you know?
There's a couple, but not too many. Okay. And I'm biased, none compared to ours. Yeah. But unlike those, these are completely all natural. The lemon kush is 18% juice. The mango is 24% juice. And then the peach cobbler is 20% juice. We use real fruit. Many times we're doing our in-store demos and tastings. When you pour it in the cup and people see the color, I have to remind them that it's from real fruit, not synthetic flavoring. Okay. And I think that that's very important, especially nowadays as we see more and more customers are looking for a more full-bodied, full-flavored product. Right. And when people have something that's real, it's a shame that we've gone so far on the deep end of things being unreal that when they taste something real, they're surprised. And I think that's the advantage that we have with our product. I always tell people that, including with CBD THC, we add ashwagandha. And a lot of times people are like, well, I've heard of ashwagandha. Well, there are a lot of benefits with ashwagandha, but when you add ashwagandha with full spectrum CBD, it's kind of like a great guitarist like Carlos Santana plugging into an amplifier. Okay. When he plugs into the amplifier, it amplifies the sound. Well, when you add ashwagandha with CBD, it's called the entourage effect or the power couple in this industry. So it amplifies the effects naturally, not chemically.
Is ashwagandha, is that a cannabinoid or?
No, ashwagandha is a 2,000-year-old Indian Ayurvedic root. Okay. And people take it supplement-wise, but it helps you relax, helps with anxiety. Okay. It's been used for centuries, for common things like helping people relax. But when you add it in a drink, it brings out the properties fully where a person doesn't have to crash out with something that's 50 milligrams or 60 milligrams, as you've seen in the industry.
Well, two things. One, I asked you about the lemonade because I haven't seen that many lemonade cannabinoid-based drinks out there. So you're one of the first. I think I've maybe seen one other. Secondarily, yeah, the entourage effect has been a concept in the cannabis space for a long time.
Mhm.
The concept is obviously if you usher in all the other cannabinoids with CBD with everything, it amplifies the effect. Now, truth be told, I've never heard of using ashwagandha to supplement that. You're the first person that's ever taught me that.
Well, thank you.
So that's great. But how did you help me understand how you transitioned from going from alcohol to this, and what was the discussion like internally with your team and maybe even with your investors, which you don't have to disclose by any means who they
Right.
are, but that's a transition in itself.
I pay attention to the market. I travel all over the country. I spend countless hours inside of grocery stores and convenience stores, taking pictures, reading labels, seeing what's new, seeing what ingredient combinations are there. And going back to that library in college, my thirst for learning has been something I think is an advantage of mine. So I've had to learn the chemical compositions. I have companies that can do it, but I need to know it myself. So a lot of looking at what's in the industry and then what's not. There's a real trend now of people getting, vegan and vegetarian, pescatarian, and all natural and grass fed. Even pet food is to the point where it's not the pet food I grew up with. It used to be in the can. Dog was fed anything. Now today it's refrigerated, it's more all natural, etc. Real ingredients. So I was looking at, okay, the iteration of our lemonade is one thing. Going to the ready-to-drink cocktails is another one. You're providing convenience for a customer that's a mixed drink. They don't have to do anything. They crack the can, they pour it in the glass, or they walk around with the can, they drink it, it's already mixed. 7% alcohol. It's not going to get you inebriated, but if you have a couple, you'll feel okay. But also for bars and restaurants, it takes the labor out of making a cocktail. You crack the can, pour 6 ounces in a shaker, strain it in a martini glass. You can make a peach cobbler whiskey martini without having all the cumbersome labor. So those are my thoughts going into that. But then when I start seeing the growth of CBD, the growth of the acceptance of CBD, THC, looking at people like Snoop Dogg's of the world and how openly smoking, it just, nobody had a problem with it. It was becoming more and more acceptable. And so I was like, well, a delivery system like gummies, I always heard the complaint of people saying, well, I don't know when they would hit. There might be 15 minutes, it might be a half an hour, and then people tend to overuse. So they don't feel anything in an hour, they eat another one. And there's been the horror stories of people having too much. Well, I figured a delivery system like beverages, it's going to go into your system faster and it's going to be absorbed faster. And so I figured, well, hey, a delivery system like this Luther Dryer's lemonade would be a great one to be able to taste the nuances of the lemonade and not taste the cannabinoids that you're having. So I had to learn to put nano formulation so it would absorb more. And probably the reason that you don't see citrus-based products out there is because of the ability to mix the juice with the THC or CBD and still be able to mask the taste. Many things that are out there, they are not put together as well. It's just things thrown together. And many people say, oh, I don't like it because I can taste it, right? I want to give you something that's more craft, that's more elevated, as we say, elevate your taste on the label, but you enjoy it. You're not just drinking it to get to the end of the road. You're actually enjoying it. You're enjoying the flavor. You're enjoying the taste. You can taste the differential levels of fruit and spice. And I think that for us, right, we want to be a leader in this new direction of giving people more of a custom cocktail or a custom drink as opposed to just something that many of these larger companies who have the the budget and the manpower. They just throw things together to take advantage of the industry.
Well, I think that makes a big difference because, as you said, there's a big difference between drinking something for an objective to just
Mm-hmm.
to be, to feel that psychoactive
Correct.
effect versus enjoying your drink along the way.
Right.
Because what happens is you want to drink more,
Correct.
so you buy a second one
Correct.
or a third one.
Correct.
Many times when your end objective is just to feel the effects of it, you drink your one and it's like, well, I'm there.
I'm there. Right.
I don't need to take more medicine, right?
That's
Because
correct.
the whole point of getting to that point is you drink something you didn't really enjoy.
Mm-hmm. But you did it anyway.
But you did it anyways for the end objective. With your
Right.
drink, what I'm hearing is you'll get there,
Mm-hmm.
but along the way you'll enjoy the ride as well.
It's like life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's, along the way you should enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
And I think that if you look at, for instance, we're talking about Texas, right? The sales specifically in this category in Texas have doubled. You have retailers telling me they're making more money in this category than there are in alcohol. And so I look at it as, I see what's out there, and I know that Texas has a lot of business, a lot of opportunities. So for us, we want to introduce our product in an area where we feel that, we have an opportunity to, get into many of these large retailers and companies and align ourselves with many of the distributors and things that are here to help move our product into where people can find it. And that's why we believe in really, doing the in-store demos that we do, because I guess the saying is liquor to lips or sips to lips. There's nothing that beats when a person tastes your product, when they have that one-on-one interaction with your product. And for us, that is our advantage, because you can describe, ashwagandha and full spectrum CBD, the effects, blase, blase. That goes over most people's heads. You pour it in the cup and say, taste this.
Yeah.
It
resonates.
It resonates, yes.
Is it harder to make this product? When I say harder, that's a very broad term, but is it more difficult, labor intensive, or more costly to make these products in comparison to the hard lemonades? Or is it about the same?
No, it's a little more costly because you're adding the ingredients to the cannabinoids, and you got to make sure that unlike the hard lemonades, which are still, these are carbonated. So that tricky formulation for you to go back and go from a still version to a carbonated version, so you have to reformulate. But then you also have to make sure that over a period of time that the effectiveness of what you have in here doesn't sink. So it's constant testing,
Okay.
constant making sure that what is the storage? Is it refrigerated? Is it here? Is it there? But overall, I mean, I think it should be. I think it should cost more because the customer's perception, right, is that they should pay more. Or there's more value, right? As opposed to, I mean, everyone likes alcohol, but it doesn't seem that the perception of when it comes to this industry is the same now with alcohol. Alcohol is just like something, like a old rug. It's been there forever and it's going to continue to be there.
Yeah.
This is the new frontier. And so, costing wise, it's funny because in some places in Texas, as opposed to North Carolina, we get almost double the retail price of these products.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, I think I was really kind of asking a rhetorical question, just verification.
Okay.
But it makes sense that this is more costly, but your profit margins are probably a little bit better too.
Correct.
Right, with these drinks. That at least those were my thoughts. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit, but tell me about that conversation as you're raising capital. How do you pitch for capital raising when you're and maybe you did it before Kush came out. I don't know. You tell me. But
I'm still doing it.
You're still doing it. So
yes.
How challenging is it to raise capital with a cannabinoid based line versus just the Luther Dryer's hard lemonade?
Well, it's all inclusive. It's the same company. So the products are just extensions of the
Sure.
original formulation.
But with this, you're adding more cost, there's more overhead, and there's
Yes.
also more regulatory risk.
Correct. Correct.
So how do you pitch for that?
Well, first of all, you have to believe in what you're doing,
Okay.
right? Because why should someone believe in you if you don't? You know, then you have to also be able to show proof of concept. You have to be able to, I'm not a financial analyst or financial wizard, but I do understand numbers. It's just like when the NBA draft was yesterday. Many people got drafted not for their skills now. They got drafted for their potential.
Right.
I
think Michael Jordan talks about that on Oprah.
Yeah.
Is that kids get drafted not off of skill or their performance. They're drafted based off of the potential to perform later on.
It's no different in business.
Yeah.
That many people invest in things not because of what it's doing right now, but for the potential. So as I look out the window, if you can be able to see where things are going and you can effectively articulate that, not just through communication, but through documentation, and the industry speaks for itself. I'm not making up the numbers. Demand exists. It's increasing. FYI, Target just started selling THC beverages. So many of these companies are helping my narrative when I'm going out looking to speak to interested investors. And again, it's not a surefire thing, right? I mean, people are skeptical. They're going to ask questions. Your job is to be able to answer those questions. Your job is to be able to present a finished product that showing them they're not doing the heavy lifting. The product's already done. More so the investment is needed for us to make an impact into the market. These things, you got to have branding. You got to have in-store demos. You got to be able to have advertising. You got to be able to look at where your product is going to be distributed. End cap displays. Et cetera, et cetera. All of these things go along with helping to brand the product in the customer's mind. So talking to investors, I think it helps as you grow and you make more of a name of yourself. Like anything else, right? Nobody wants you until someone wants you. Right. So for me, right, I totally believe in what we're doing. There's an old African proverb. It says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so I truly believe that my journey is I'm good at what I do, but I'm trying my best to surround myself with individuals of like-mindedness, but who also may be able to bring some financial ability to the table, but then other skill sets that can help us overall as a team get to the finish line.
There's another African proverb that says, if you want to fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up.
That's a good one. I'm going to use that.
No, it's true. And it's like a lot of things in life, right? But tell me about one challenge, whether it's financial, cultural, anything about you being, I guess, a business owner, an operator, that you face that you feel is probably the most challenging or that is an ongoing chronic challenge.
Well, I'm a realist, and that helps me dealing with life and dealing with people. What I have found, and, as an African-American, obviously, being an African-American entrepreneur, we face a lot more challenges from capital raises to accessibility to decision makers to being able to have access to retail placement and these type of things. So for me, there's been a constant battle of me working my way into the ability to get in front of people that can make decisions to help us grow. And even when I've gotten in front of some of them, great product, but sometimes there's an underlining thing of, well, I know we should have the opportunity, but then we don't get it.
Do you feel that if you weren't Black, you wouldn't have those challenges? Just be candid.
Yes, I do. I feel that I see a lot more products that are much lower quality. The time taken to look into the art. I look at our labels and I see how much they stand out. And I see some of these things on the shelf that, a 5-year-old kid look like they drew. but they have access in this retailer and that retailer, et cetera. Now, I say that it can get frustrating, but as I impart my wisdom on people who ask me things about being an entrepreneur, well, I tell them that I've come up with a saying that I take no's like vitamins. This is a tough game. You have to be a tough person, male or female. If you're going to go after your dreams, then because there is obstacles, you're not the first person to experience obstacles on the road to your dreams. Mm-hmm. So you have to make a decision. Well, how bad do I want to get to where I'm going? Well, if that's the case, then you have to take on everything that comes on with it. But it doesn't mean that you have to accept things for the way they are. As the great Albert Einstein said, the only thing constant is change. But that change doesn't come without a conflict. And so if you're going to be the issuer of change, then you have to understand that there's going to be some blowback to your trying to change. And so what I have found is that, you put on your big boy pants, you stay in a good mindset. I'm a pretty happy person, not because I'm happy, because I work on it. I understand that my happiness leads to all the other things that come around in my life. And I go about my work on a daily basis that when I do experience, whether it's racism or challenges or whatever, sometimes those things can turn out to be some of your best allies when you build relationships. So never let the initial things stop you. Learn how to be a better people person. Learn how to find things that might motivate others to give you opportunities. Where there's a will, there's a way. Or another one I should say.
We talked about this earlier, Patrick, is that, when you have failures or when you have roadblocks, when you have challenges, it does a couple things. You learn from your mistakes.
Right.
You
should.
You learn from the experiences.
Right.
And it's also a motivation factor, right? And when you marry the motivation behind the lessons that you learn, it can be a pretty powerful tool in business and in life. As we're wrapping up towards the end of the session here, I want to talk a little bit more about your products. Where can we find you with Kush and the hard lemonade? What kind of stores or maybe it's bars, maybe it's coffee shops, who knows?
On our website, you can go to lutherdryers.com.
Okay.
And under the tab where to buy, you can see all the places we're located. And then drinkkushlemonade.com will show you all the places and retailers that we're located.
Okay.
You also are going to be able to find us at Canacon, St. Louis. We'll be doing that. I think that's in August.
Okay.
And then we're going to do Lucky Leaf, which is going to be in Richmond, I believe, in August. So those are two of the trade shows that you'll find us out later on this summer. Other than that,
shout out to Chad Sloan over at Lucky Leaf. I've spoken at Lucky Leaf a handful of times.
Okay, well, I haven't met them yet, but shout out to them. And then one last thing, we're very active on social media. So we're at kush.lemonade. You can see all of our customer testimonials and reactions that people have when they're tasting our products to give you a firsthand look of a wide swath of demographics that we touch with our products every day.
Okay. And what about any other organizations that you're involved with, like maybe the Hemp Beverage Alliance, I think?
I haven't joined yet, but I've been watching on the peripheral. Okay. That's part of, again, us coming to Texas. There's so much opportunity, to be able to align ourselves with different organizations. And that's been part of our growth, where I've done the heavy lifting as an entrepreneur, but now I'm starting to get more of a team where we can be able to align ourselves with these different organizations. I'm only one guy, and I found that, I have to really be possessive of my time now as we're growing and really zone in on the things that I do best, and not be afraid to get people around you that can help you, get to the finish line.
Do you have any concern? Just it hit me. I didn't ask you this earlier, but do you have any concerns with some of the regulatory roadblocks and the regulatory restrictions that's now here in Texas, or the one that's upcoming in November?
No, I'm an eternal optimist, and I can only control what I can control. So I don't know what this saying was. It's like, never get too excited by a win and never get too low about a loss. So for me, for instance, If Logan's Steakhouse is now selling THC beverages, Target is now selling THC beverages, I kind of look at, what are these larger companies doing who have more internal discussions they have to go through, more levels they have to go through, more capital that they have to place. So if they're making these kind of decisions, right, it's kind of giving me a wink that they know definitely something I don't know.
Well, I'll say this. I think one of the advantages you have with Luther Dryers is that, let's hypothetically say that there's a nationwide ban on this. You still have your soft lemonade and your hard lemonade.
And we also do an ice cream from our lemonade.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, we have a portfolio of products, so we won't be out of the game.
Yeah.
We might be,
you may take a financial hit.
Take a hit, right?
Yeah.
But we won't be out of the game, which is great because, just like in finances, right? You have to be able to hedge your investments. That's what I'm growing this company to do, to be able that we can have products in different sectors. The soft lemonades that reaches everybody, the liquor, the THC, the novelties like ice cream, salad dressings.
Salad dressings?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Seriously, right.
Huh.
Everything, I mean, you've had a lemon vinaigrette before, right?
Yeah.
So a lemonade vinaigrette is no different.
Yeah.
Right? A strawberry lemonade vinaigrette.
I want to try that ice cream.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the ice cream is excellent. I'll tell you a funny story is that, ice cream is sorbet and sherbet because it's water-based.
Yeah.
You don't find a cream-based ice cream made from lemons because the citrus makes cream turn to buttermilk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I
found
a way past that.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah.
Well, Patrick, hey, it was a great conversation with you.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate you making the time, and I wish you, big success with your products.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.